diamonds, they sparkle like the dew. I can talk about your fair acquaintance in Arbor with the yellow rose of Texas beat the bells of Tennessee.
Welcome to Cars and Guitars, because if you're going to have an expensive hobby, you may as well have two. Welcome back to Cars and Guitars. Last episode we went through my oldest electric guitar. If you haven't seen it, there's the thing. So today I figured we'd take a look at my oldest acoustic guitar. From the mid-ish 30s, and still in its original case, is my Dobro Model 25. Maybe. A little bit of history to start. The Dobro Guitar Company began when John Dopiera had a bit of a disagreement with his business partner at the National String Instrument Corporation, where he was working at the time. John and his brother Rudy had developed a single-cone resonator guitar that they felt was just better than what National was offering at the time. National didn't want it, so John up and left. This was in 1928. John's design was cheaper to manufacture than the National's, and it was louder as well, so a bit of a win for the manufacturer and the end user. To produce his new design, they formed Dobro in Southern California back in 1929. But like many other companies, Dobro contracted out production of bodies to other companies with larger capacity. In this case, the Regal Musical Instrument Corporation. Originally, Dobro manufactured the necks and brought bodies from Regal. This started to get a bit costly, so Dobro and Regal came to an agreement where Regal would build and sell east of the Mississippi River and Dobro west of it, with Dobro supplying all the metal parts. Basically, they had half of the US each. Ironically, or not, by 1932, the Dopiera brothers secured a controlling interest in both National and Dobro and merged the companies to form the National Dobro Corporation. Now, I said mid-ish 30s and Model 25, could also be a 27, because if you know a thing or two about Dobros, you know that inconsistency was the only consistent thing about them. So let's take a closer look at this beauty. First things first, this one doesn't have a serial number, but you can just make out Made in USA on the top of the headstock. While we're in this area, this is a slotted headstock. Californian ones had square slot ends, so this would most likely make this a Regal factory manufactured guitar, so made in Chicago. This had the headstock snapped off at some point in its life and was glued back together. These metal supports were added, which they're just so beautifully simple in their intention. I've been looking after this guitar for at least 15 years, and probably about 10 or so ago, the brakes started opening back up, so I had it professionally repaired. I put the metal pieces back on more as a nod to the original repairer and just the history of the guitar. Moving down the neck, have a go at this fingerboard. Nothing but cowboy chords. This plays great in the first position, hence literally wearing the timber down. The neck's just as a big old chunk of some sort of timber. There's not a lot of info on the timbers used, but it is likely a poplar neck and a rosewood or walnut fingerboard. This one has a 14 fret neck, so that's 14 frets clear of the body, as opposed to the more common 12 fret neck. These don't have truss rods either. For those that don't know, truss rod is a metal rod in here running the length of the neck. That's to keep the neck straight by countering the pull of the strings and natural tendencies of the wood. Without it, over the years, the neck warps like this, and you end up with an action that's higher than Willie Nelson. Let's get these old strings off and take a look at what gives these guitars their sound. The metal resonator cover here is a nice feature of these guitars. I believe these designs are poinsettia flowers. Earlier 30s models had the screws at the hour clock positions. Later 30s ones moved to the half hour positions to make it easier to get the cover off without removing the tailpiece. This also has a patent number on it. You can actually look these up on Google and see that it was granted in 1933. So there's no way this guitar could be earlier than that. It also has other patents pending. Later models have extra patent numbers here that were granted in, I believe, 1937. So that would put this guitar between 1934 and 1937, just based off this. You can see the two-piece bridge here attached to this big old aluminum spider looking thing. Vibrations go down here and into the resonating cone. It resonates and you get an amplified sound. It's actually a really cool design. Have a bit of a closer look here. Nice. Let's have a little look inside while we've got the cover off. Inside you can see a little bit of the construction, nothing fancy. There's also no extra markings in here other than a little X. Some models do have a serial number in here, but again, inconsistency was the only consistent thing about these. The body construction is largely birch ply. You can actually see here a two-piece top, I'm guessing, with another laminate over it. Bound top and back with likely poplar for the neck and walnut for the fingerboard, like I mentioned earlier. This has got what you'd call, I guess, a violin burst and a dark back. These F-holes are really violin-y looking as well, which comes as no surprise because the Doppiera brothers originally started making violins. Quick look in the case here. There is an absolute ton of history with this guitar as well. And honestly, that's probably something for another video, but we'll have a quick look here. We've got some photos, and I've also got these records. These were recorded back in the mid-50s, and they actually feature this guitar. So that's something really, really cool to have together. Unfortunately, they weren't stored properly, and they're in pretty terrible condition. I'm trying to digitize them as best I can, mostly for prosperity. And with that, all that's left to do is chuck a fresh set of strings on it and see how it sounds.